Fun stuff as always here at my place, and we are about 2 hours away from the WDW Today live podcast, officially for February, but of course it's March 3rd. So we are preparing for, hopefully, to find out in the near future, and I mean by near future as in very close to right now, will definitely be the dates for 2013 reunion, and I'm hoping we're going to get those soon. So, hopefully we're going to go dark for a minute, sorry. If anything, it's always nice to chat with Matt and Len and Noel and Scopa, Annette and Becky, and anyone else that may possibly be there, and all the awesome people in chat. Some of the people I got to meet in reunion last year, some of the people I will meet at reunion this year, and some of the people I've yet to meet. So, hopefully that'll be taken care of either tonight or in the near future, because I want to start paying that so I can pay that off sooner rather than later. Mom's gone. She left this morning, actually this afternoon, a couple hours ago. I'm going to be, excuse me, there's tentative potential she could possibly get home Tuesday night, but she'll have to leave again on Thursday to go back and then come back on Saturday, something like that. Anyway, so we'll be doing that, and I have a lot of soda to take downstairs. I mean, the video I shot the other day, remember how I mentioned a lot of sodas I liked? I got a lot of those now, so went ahead and took care of that. I mean, I have a lot of diet soda. I mean, I have Diet Orange Crush, and of course Diet Mountain Dew, and Diet Dr. Pepper, and like I said, I talked about it in the video, I haven't had it for years, I have some caffeine-free Coke now. And of course I have my regular Pepsi. So it is Sunday, and it is time for a segment that everyone seems to enjoy, AJ's Weekend Movie Reviews. So usually there's 3. Unfortunately this time we weren't able to watch The Last Exorcism 2 today. So what we're going to do is we're going to tack that on to next weekend's reviews, to tack that on to Oz and Dead Man Down. So that's going to be what we do with that. But I figured out with the Raw recap, and I further went on with the Impact recap, and now I'm going on with this, that standing up and reading this on my giant computer monitor / HD television screen makes a whole lot more sense. So that's what I'm going to exactly do from now on. That way I'm not looking upwards the whole time, and you can tell I'm reading. Obviously, I'm telling you straight up that I'm reading. It's, like I said, I'm doing this word for word verbatim. These are AJ's Weekend Movie Reviews, as usual. I did not look at this beforehand. This is all completely brand new information to me, and a new review that I have not read yet. You are the first people to hear it, and I'm going to give it to all of you right now. As usual, like I state pretty much in every video, when it comes to AJ's Weekend Movie Reviews, these are his opinions, and I'm going to read them verbatim. I may agree, I may disagree. In most cases, I do agree. So, we'll see where we go from here. Excuse me. We did, on Friday, get to watch 21 and Over and Jack the Giant Slayer. So, here's AJ's opinions on 21 and Over to start us off. Alright. The first thing I did before writing this review was go to IMDb to look up the ages of the writer-directors of this film. Their names are John Lucas and Scott Moore. And I was surprised to find that IMDb does not list their birth dates. I think I know why. I imagine it is some government cover-up, and these guys are experiments on what happens when you take 2 brains, both belonging to kids somewhere between the ages of 12 and 15, and put them inside the bodies of 2 guys that look like they're in their 40s. Having now seen 21 and Over, I can guess their experiment was a massive success. Yes, these are the same guys that got a BAFTA nomination for scripting The Hangover back in 2009. But the thing is, though, that when you venture to say The Hangover was just a fluke on their resume, I don't even think that is the case. The Hangover clearly feels like a movie that is heavily improvised by its actors, and it is a beloved, critically acclaimed movie. I realize that statement, obviously. Everyone knows how I feel about that piece of garbage. But anyway, the other credits of these guys, Ghosts of Girlfriends Past, 4 Christmases, and the Martin Lawrence basketball comedy Rebound, as well as uncredited rewrites on the likes of 27 Dresses, Monster-in-Law, and Mr. Woodcock. These are the award-nominated screenwriters that seem to think that racism and screaming the word waffles is the current height of hilarity. Now this story begins with Miller, played by Miles Teller, who by the way just won an acting award at the Sundance Film Festival for the upcoming The Spectacular Now, comes home to visit his best friend Casey, Skylar Astin, who you probably remember from the abysmal Pitch Perfect and nothing else. And they decide to go visit their friend Jeff Chang, played by Justin Chon, whose 21st birthday is today, and of course he has exams to become a doctor. But why worry about that when you're turning 21? Jeez, if only he had enough time to finish for his exams, then go out partying. It's a shame we don't stay 21 for a whole year. That would make this a lot easier on him. So after some pretty grueling peer pressure from his friend, Miller, Jeff Chang decides finally to go out and get completely wasted. Notice how I call him Jeff Chang all the time? So do the characters. You know why? You already know. Obviously, it's because the fact that the kid is Asian is so damn funny. You know, because he's all Asian. It's hilarious. I'll bet audiences all over the country busted a gut when Jeff Chang answered the door and the first thing, word for word, that Miller says to him is, "Jeff Chang, you tiny yellow son of a bitch." Classic line. Alright, I'll quickly run down the subplot so I can get to what is wrong with this movie. I'd hate to keep you all day, but it might just take that. The closest thing we get to character development is Jeff Chang is being forced to be a doctor by his overbearing dad. But he doesn't want to be a doctor. Casey is starting a new job soon and really wants Nicole, which is Sarah Wright, for his girlfriend, but of course she's dating the douchebag she'll eventually dump. Doesn't that suck for Casey, who will undoubtedly win her over literally seconds after she breaks up with the douchebag, and we all know it. And Miller, their slacker who wants to stay a slacker and resents anyone doing something with their life. That's all you need to know. Now, in a world where all of our fine technology and college campuses filled with familiar faces, you can make an entire plot out of looking for someone's house when they live 6 blocks from where you're at. I know, I just witnessed it happen. You can do so simply by breaking into the editing room of the American Pie movies and picking up whatever useless scraps you can find on the cutting room floor and putting them together for an hour and a half of this film. Or any film, mind you. This includes scenes of lesbian kissing, spankings, vomit, and a lovely prolonged scene of Jeff Chang eating a tampon. Now, there's a joke that is mentioned in almost every scene of the movie about how Miller wants to bang Casey's sister. No, there's nothing else to it. The joke is that they thought it was so funny they have to revisit it in every scene that Miller wants to bang Casey's sister. That's it. There are big problems with the two leads. First off, starting with Teller, who is turning into quite a dramatic actor, but here he appears to be channeling Jonah Hill in Superbad, desperately spouting off line after line that really makes no sense, but it is clear that he's trying to become one of those characters that's endlessly quotable, like the characters Paul Rudd and Seth Rogen often play. But the trouble is, these clever little one-liners, I can't remember a single one of them. They were horribly timed, not funny, and normally had nothing to do with the situation they were in. The screenwriters just thought, well, let's have them say something random. The kids that will watch it, yeah, they'll want to quote it to their friends and say, "Ha ha, that's so random. We're making comedy gold here, John." The next offender is Astin. First off, is it just me, or even though he's supposed to be a peer to someone like Miller and Jeff Chang, but with his ties and his creepy face, doesn't he look like he's in his early 30s? My God, is this character boring. I mean, every time this guy was on screen fawning over Nicole, it made me appreciate the rest of the movie for at least trying to be funny. I also found Nicole to be particularly annoying, and I had no idea how one of these characters could have feelings for the other. And I'm a little suspicious of Nicole, as I find it very odd. She can just randomly materialize when the guys happen to be wherever the guys happen to be, particularly or if they are in trouble. Now, whether you're a comedy or drama, or any genre, this is the biggest crime a filmmaker can possibly pull. Just when you think the thing could be ending and they're about to put you out of your misery, they throw more contrived plot points at you, and they're going to make sure you ride this out until you're at the verge of suicide. So, for a reason I don't even recall, they have to get all the way up to the 8th floor. That's a lot of floors for a frat house, no? To get to the resident advisor to ask him a question that doesn't help them in any way. However, there's a drinking game going on, you have to play on each floor, it's like Beer Fest with stairs, before you can pass. So after insulting every race possible, we move on to a scene where they insult some Russians that they're playing with, and we have our 40th party montage until they finally make it. And at the top, the movie decides to reward us for sticking it out with the RA, played by Josh Gad. That's right, Josh Gad, the creator and star of 1600 Penn, the worst show on TV at the moment. I'm not even going to get started on his pathetic fat ass. So that's pretty much it. And we're treated to the ending, which you know exactly how it will play out 5 minutes after the movie starts. And you're stuck there just waiting for it to play out. This movie tried a number of things and absolutely failed at all of them. I hate this movie. If they really wanted this to draw in their target demographic and get people in it that will actually find this movie funny and recommend it, they should have just called it 15 and under. This is for Jack the Giant Slayer. This movie has a rocky history. I first saw a trailer for it on Sherlock Holmes: A Game of Shadows in December of 2011. At that time, it was called Jack the Giant Killer, which confused a lot of people into thinking it was about a tall person named Jack that killed people. When that trailer was released, the film was set for a summer 2012 date. For one reason, or many, the movie was pushed back almost an entire year, and over a year after its first trailer, as well as getting that necessary title change. Before this movie goes incredibly downhill, I want to talk about how much I love Bryan Singer's production logo at the start of the film. Obviously, before Singer took on X-Men, he was best known for his film debut, the Oscar-winning The Usual Suspects. Now, film buffs will notice immediately that the first thing you see in this movie is giant footsteps. 5 giant footsteps. Then we get the silhouettes of 5 giants, turning as the name of the logo comes up. The giants standing as if in a lineup. Pretty badass. Unfortunately, I wish I could end the review here, as there isn't much else worth noting. But I sat through the whole thing, so here goes. This movie was all kinds of disappointing, and I wasn't even that excited for it. It just looked like a really fun time and involved so many talents, including Ewan McGregor and Stanley Tucci, singer-writer Christopher McQuarrie, and I really liked lead actor Nicholas Hoult in Warm Bodies last month. I didn't expect a movie so wild-looking and so special effects heavy to be so boring. It makes a big mistake that most movies set in this era do, which is give us a very dull prologue that doesn't want to throw us into the world immediately. It chooses to get our adrenaline pumping by reading us a bedtime story. Jack learns of the giants at that time as Isabel, as they are being told by their guardians, and I guess this makes them soulmates, or something. When they grow up, Isabel is a princess, and Jack just works on his family's farm. But of course, as always, the princess wants to be defiant towards the king, played by Ian McShane, so she often takes off to live amongst the normal townspeople in secrecy. They all do that, don't they? Jack is eventually given some beans, and he's told to basically treat them like gremlins. You know, of course they manage to escape his grasp and end up falling through the floorboards, and on one rainy night, a giant beanstalk emerges, touching all the way to the sky. So, all the king's horses and all the king's men, and I mean that literally, mind you, join Jack in climbing the beanstalk. The trouble is that Roderick is now wearing the crown, and he intends on using the giants to rule the land. Now, Tucci is a lot of fun to watch, and he seems to be having a good time channeling Lord Farquaad from Shrek. The head of the king's men, Elmont, is bent on getting the crown back, but is sometimes a tad too bumbling, which leaves room for Jack to save the day. McGregor does a good job and is funny at times. I also enjoyed Ewan Bremer. McGregor's co-star in Trainspotting, as one of the men who is not so trustworthy. Along the way, Jack and Elmont battle many giants. The most antagonistic is one with two heads. One the brains, one the idiot. The trouble is, these giants are so fake-looking and such obvious CGI that they aren't near as threatening as they're supposed to be, if at all. The action also is not very exciting. The only really memorable action scene is one towards the end where the giants defend themselves by throwing trees that are on fire, which just looks like a battle scene lifted through a rough cut of Lord of the Rings. Didn't help that the 3D was pretty terrible. I spent the last hour without the glasses and could actually see much better, minus a bit of a blur, of course. Two big problems here. Number one, Jack. Our hero is incredibly boring, and you really don't care what happens to him. Holt proved that he could be a very effective actor, but here he knows where he is, and doesn't really do anything to rise above his material. And two, the dreaded multiple climax. With about half an hour left, there's a big finish where Elmont finally confronts Roderick. However, once that scene is done and everything appears to be back into shape, all the giants decide they want to fight. I thought this would be a great way to end, not only because I was begging it to end, but I could just have left you on the edge of your seat with hopes for a sequel. That most likely wouldn't happen. But I guess knowing they wouldn't be getting that sequel most likely, they decided to throw everything into this basket and make us all wait another 30 minutes as we watch the giants throw things at the humans until they finally figure out how to fight back effectively. But by then I was just ready to go. It pained me to dislike this movie so much, because it could have been totally harmless. The problem is, all these fairy tale movies that give us the same boring crap. Sure, some work, like Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters, but mostly they're overlong, boring, expensive pieces of crap in the most 2D, 3D that you'll ever see. Odds that you want, well, if you want a much more fun, clever Beanstalk adventure, your best bet, just watch Puss in Boots. Last Exorcism 2 review coming next week with Oz and Dead Man Down. And tomorrow we're going to be talking about Celebrity Apprentice. And hopefully I'll have reunion news as well. And then Tuesday we'll talk about Old School Raw. So, until tomorrow, that's all I got to say about that.